Okay, let's continue. Open economy macroeconomics. Sorry I was interrupted on the previous um, narration, so let's continue with equality of NX and NCO. NX is net exports, NCO is net capital outflow. So, they are equal. Why are they equal? Because every transaction that affects net exports also affects net capital outflow by the same amount, and vice versa. So when a foreigner purchases a good from the USA, US exports and net exports increase. The foreigner pays with currency or assets, so the US acquires some foreign assets, causing net capital outflow to rise. In essence, the foreigner is going to pay with their currency, so the US has their currency now, and will then, or assets, and then will acquire some foreign assets with that currency, because that foreign asset is going to be denominated in that currency. Now, other way around, when a US citizen buys foreign goods, US imports rise, net exports fall. The US buyer pays with US dollars or assets, and the other country acquires US assets, causing US net capital outflow to fall. This is going to be far more the case than the other way around, since we are running a net trade deficit. Okay, more equations. Here's the accounting identity for y is equal to c plus I plus g plus net exports. We rearrange the terms. Y minus c minus g, that looks like savings. And yes, it is. Savings is equal to investment plus net exports, since savings is y minus c minus g. And S is equal to I plus NCO, since NX equals NCO. Therefore, when the savings is greater than investment, the excess loanable funds flow abroad in the form of positive cash outflow. So when U.S. savings is greater than investment, the U.S. will have capital flowing outward to the foreign country. When savings is less than investment, foreigners are financing some of the country's investment, and NCO is less than zero. So while savings is equal to investment, it definitely is different. Savings is savings, investment is demand. So when investment is greater than savings, there's more demand out there for capital, and thus the country has to borrow. And who's going to borrow it? People from other countries. So when investment is greater than savings, money is flowing in to purchase those assets, those U.S. bonds, to finance the trade deficit, to finance the greater investment. Okay, speaking of which, the case study, the U.S. trade deficit. U.S. trade deficit reached record levels in 2006 and remained high in 2007-08. Recall that NX is equal to savings minus investment is equal to net capital outflow. Trade deficit means that investment is greater than savings, so the nation borrows the difference from foreigners. And in 2007, foreign purchases of U.S. assets exceeded U.S. purchases of foreign assets by $775 million. Such deficits have been the norm since 1980. And here, we've got investment and saving that are roughly working in sync. Investment is greater than savings, and as a result, net capital outflow has been going down. So that is truth. That is proof of the pudding for the identity NCO is equal to NX. Or if the investment is greater than the savings, net capital outflow will be negative. Now, if it was the other way around, if savings was in excess of investment, then this net capital outflow would be going up and not going down. Okay, U.S. trade deficit. Why has U.S. savings been less than investment? in the 1980s and early 2000s. Huge budget deficits and low private saving depressed national savings. The U.S. was definitely a laggard in private saving. In the 90s, national savings increased as the government grew, but domestic investment increased even faster due to the information technology boom. So there was a lot of investment in research and development, and thus a fair amount of borrowing for those monies to finance the foreign investment. Is the U.S. trade deficit a problem? Well, the extra capital stock from the 90s investment may well yield large returns. The fall in savings in the 80s and double O's, while not desirable, at least did not depress domestic investment, as firms could borrow from abroad. Maybe a little bit less so because there's less capital out there because of the mortgage meltdown. A country, like a person, can go into debt for good reasons or bad ones. A trade deficit is not necessarily a problem, but it might be a symptom of a problem. Consider, though, that if there's a trade deficit, there's almost always going to be in the other country whom we have the trade deficit with is going to buy more assets in the trade deficit country. Okay, as of December 31st, 2007, people abroad owned 20.1 trillion in U.S. assets. U.S. residents own 17.6 trillion in foreign assets. U.S. net indebtedness, or capital outflow going in, negative net capital outflow, was 2.5 trillion, higher than any other country's indebtedness. So the U.S. is the world's biggest debtor nation. And so far, the U.S. earns higher interest rates on foreign assets than it pays on its debts to foreigners. So people are loaning money to the U.S. at favorable interest rates, but that may not continue. And if that doesn't continue, then the foreigners may demand higher interest rates, and servicing the debt will become a drain on U.S. income. So a bigger and bigger slice of U.S. income and resources will have to go to paying off the people whom we owe. And I think this is going to conclude the third section